Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry, I'm running a minute late here. Get my screen share up here. All right, I do have one pre-submitted question from Susan. Let me get that posted, then Susan, I will unmute you. We can have a chat about your particular question. Well, you can see the Lunch and Learn slides, right?
Yes, you're coming through.
Very wonderful. All right, and then Susan, I'd like to know how to attach an Excel document to a form, and then for the form to go to an approver who can open up and download the attached Excel document. Ah, sure. Okay. We can do that. What's today? 10/17. All right, so let's build a quick flow here. Like we have, what we need is we could have a form with a file upload. Call this new file. So here's a form and a flow. And then we can save this. Now this flow, are you familiar with just getting files into flows in general? Or is it more about attaching it to an assigned form after it's been submitted?
Yeah, I've uploaded them before, but not so that we can view it as an Excel document.
Okay, so in this form, we just created a form with a single outcome button and then a file upload control. And, and this will allow us, when we run this flow, to have a user see this form and upload their file.
Yeah.
And then what we're going to do is create a second form. This will be an assigned form. So let's create a new form here. And on this form, what we're going to do is search for download here, and we're going to find a file download control. Now this will, unlike a file upload where we put files in, will let us download files from a form. I'll call this, I'll just name this thing file to check. And so here, what I can do is every time I add like a file control to a form, if I look at this step here, under outputs, I have my outcome path name, and then I have new file. This is the output I created. It's of type file data. And if I look here on my file to check, it's also type file data. So all I need to do is just select from flow and select new file. Now, it doesn't actually matter if it's an Excel file or not. Any file can be used in this pattern. I can now, if I were to run this, I can select a file here. There's a screenshot, and I can run it. And then I can submit, and now that same file is going to be downloadable here for me from the next form. So I'm just using file upload and download controls in the right sequence here to let someone upload and download.
I tried that and it didn't work for me.
Any more information you can give me about the particular issue you were having?
I mean, I've tried different things on this. So I used on the initial form the upload file button.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the next one,
Mm-hmm.
I've tried different things. So I've currently got document viewer in there, which hasn't worked either. But I tried the download one. Let me just try it again. File download.
One common mistake might making sure that the types match here. So if we look at the file upload control, it lets you select the type of data. So output type, the default's to file data here. Make sure you haven't switched this to one of the other options. And you'll want to make sure that the file download is also file data.
Right, so let me just look. File. Sorry, in the initial one, where's the file data go?
In the initial one,
Oh, output type,
yeah, exactly. Output type.
file data. Mm.
And then you would want that type to match if we look at the file download form here, the file output type here as well.
Yeah. Cost report. Right, so if I just try this now.
Were you able to get it to work?
I'm just waiting to get to the next bit because an email comes through or should come through. It hasn't done yet.
Okay. Here's what. Let me go ahead and put you on mute and answer Nancy's question, and I can come back to you and see if
Yeah,
once you've
sure.
got
Thanks
it.
very much.
Okay, you bet. All right, Nancy, I have a case entity where I'm storing some data that's related to another item in a separate case entity. I'd like to display an advanced data grid on the form with information from case entity 2, along with the state of that case entity. Also have some right-click actions, excuse me, on that case entity in the advanced data grid. I'm using the report-like version of the advanced data grid because of its features. Okay, so you have two cases. They're related to what's the thing that relates them to one another?
The second case entity is its parent folder is the first case entity.
You have a case inside of a case?
Basically.
So you create a case, and inside of that case, you create another case.
It's a completely separate case. It's a different
case data type, right?
Yes, it's
right, but
yes.
Okay.
It's just
like,
related. It's just related to that other case.
Okay, so it relates. So you want to show in the parent the child, or the child the parent information?
So I open up the parent basically, and then in there's a number of children. It's not the only child. Okay.
Okay, sure.
But where I'm trying to get to is that, so I have an advanced data grid where I'm pulling in that information from that second case entity. And I'm not seeing where I can choose the state of that case entity.
I see. Where are you, you're using the type you're in the advanced data grid editor, and the data source type is the data type of the second case?
Yes, it's the second case. Yes.
Then I want you to slightly modify that. What you're going to do is you're going to I'm just going to use a normal report here. This should work the same. Your data source should be folder.
Okay.
And then after you select that, you're going to add user defined type case, and you should be able to select your case as an extension. This should bind those two properties together for you. Let me do that. Let me just see. Let me double check that the advanced data grid will allow you to do that really quick. So we add a form here. Oh, fetch entities, I guess, results, and I'll put in folder. Ooh, but I can't pass both ooh, this might be trickier than I'm thinking it is, actually. Let me see. Let me just get an example set up here. Create a form, create. Here's a button. Delete this grid. Search for advanced data grid. Okay, now type. So interesting. I can only select one type. Let's see. Let me just try. Let me change my type. Let me try folder. And I'll say single select. Let's say all folder data as my input name. And I'll name my output the same thing. And let me come in and edit this data grid. Now I can't change the data source of this at all.
Right.
I think what you're going to want to do is create a, oh, this is kind of silly. You're going to want to create a data type here. So that, are you comfortable writing SQL?
Yeah.
I would probably use a raw. I would probably create a query here. Okay, so I could under create data types integration, database integration. I can add a query.
Yes,
And-
I did. I tried that. And
Okay.
and I connected it, I connected the case entity to the folders and I got the folder state.
Okay, great.
And so then, and I saved that query. But then, so if I did that where I was, which is fine, and I can work that if that's how I have to do it.
Okay.
But then how do I get, so now I would have the query as my source.
Yep.
And I need to
Exactly.
have, I'm struggling on getting the right click actions to work in there. And I'm not sure if it's because of that query.
Oh, on the advanced data grid?
Right.
Okay, I know there were some issues at one point for custom. It's not, okay, so can you override action context on an advanced data grid? Bear with me just, oh no, did I not save anything? This is form 3. Did I not save a single thing I just did? That's unfortunate. Okay, I don't know. That's stupid. Bear with me just a minute here. I had to create the form. Form 3. All right, whatever. Let's see here. Here's advanced data grid. So type is, I'm just gonna use a flow structure here. Run report 1. Yeah, sure. ASDF here. Actions. So we could try using override action context. So let me just get this all set up really quick. Let me create a query. All right, back to where I was. So create data types integration, database integration, add query. Next, and then here I'm going to join these two things together. Select star from entity folder as EF, inner join. Oh, I need to find out what the actual full table name is. So other query editor, search for test. There it is. That's my table name. Inner join boom as case. I'll say as, I'll just call it C on C dot extension ID. This should be kind of what you have already, I'm assuming. EF dot
Something like that. Right?
extension ID. And this will be case query 1. All right, and then let me come back into my flow. Here's flow 2. All right, and I'm going to edit my form. Here's my advanced data grid. I'm going to change this to case query 1. Case. There's local connection, case query 1. All right. And then I'm going to edit this. And what I'm going to try to do here is I'm going to add some properties. So here's entity name, blah, blah, blah. And then let me just see what you're getting here. All right, and then let me run my query. Local connection, run query, case query 1, boom. Limit count, ignore. Let me pass that in here. There's that. Done, done, done. Done, run. Okay, there's my actions. There's my data grid. Okay, so here, does override action context work? Actions, override action context. Action context type is folder. I can walk you back through what I'm doing here. I'm just going to try this really quick. Folder. Action context field ID is going to be folder ID. We're going to save this. And we're going to save this. And then we're going to run, run, run. Do we have to enable actions on the advanced data grid, or do they just happen automatically? I can't remember. Ah, show actions. Info only. Okay. Save, debug, debug. There you go. So what I did there is I used my query
Mhm,
as the data source. You have that part set up already, right?
mhm, yeah,
But I've got, if you edit and if you go into the advanced data grid, you can find this thing called this action, this override action context. And it allows decisions for you to pick the action context you'd like to show. And here, I know, because I just know, you won't know this, right? That a folder is like a special type for us. And anything joined to a folder, if I use folder action context, it inherits those same actions. This is kind of just something, unfortunately, you just kind of have to know about how the system works, for better or worse, right?
yeah.
But what it says is I can specify anything, if I have the ID of any object in decisions, anything that has actions in a query, I can specify the type of object and then the field that holds its ID, right? At which point decisions will at runtime allow me to override or show custom actions on that thing. And
And-
that's what this is doing here.
And so on that entity, on that case entity that you have set up there,
hmm
I can put in my user actions and that will show that, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like I just don't have any right now.
Okay, that's
But
fine.
yes, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay. And I don't want those other actions. I only want my user actions.
Yeah, and you should be able to use action visibility rules and all the other things here that you would normally, right?
Yeah,
Let's call this test action. Great. I won't actually even complete it. I'll come back here. I'll run flow to regular, and there should be test action right there.
okay, cool. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, there's a lot there. So thank you for asking that question. All right, and go ahead and mute. And Susan, were you able to get the file? I don't have no other questions that come in. Any other help you need on that question? Any other questions from anybody else? All right. Anybody else have any questions? just hang tight for a few minutes in case anybody has any questions. Will, can you see my Slack pop-ups by chance? There's been a bunch happening during this call. Do they show up
No,
at all?
they're not showing up.
Oh, okay, good. Good to know. Okay, I think we'll call it a day then. People have started to leave. No other additional questions. Tomorrow we've got Jared, and Thursday we've got Andrew. Thanks, everyone. I will be out next week, but see you back the week after. Have a great day.